Hello, government seekers. What's up? My name is Graham Elwood. Just having some nice green tea in my government secrets mug that is only available at patreon.com/government secrets. Tastes like a collapsing empire. Hot, fresh, collapsing empire. Hello, everybody in the chat. Blaze Saver Wolf is our moderator. What is up? And now for something completely different. Right on. Nice Monty Python reference. Like, share, subscribe, put this out on your social media. We are streaming on Lee Camp's YouTube, on my YouTube, and on Rockfin, where Lee and I both have content there. You can sign up and be a premium member there and get Lee's premium, my premium, everybody's premium content. Ron Placone is over there, and a bunch of MMA and QAnon people. It's fantastic. So check it out. Also, I'll talk about this when Lee comes on the show. Let's get right into it. This thing's right in my face. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Government Secrets, episode 158, with the two most censored comedians in America, Lee Camp and Graham Elwood. Victory.
Hello, good sir. I'm trying to out-news voice you.
Sweet Lee Camp.
We just get deeper and deeper until each of us goes, oh,
I think mine probably is less news and more sort of monster trucks is what. That's how I view this show. It's the monster trucks of podcasts.
The monster trucks of history is what it is. I like that.
It really is. That. And CIA's Truckosaurus is going to eat up some coups.
A lot of people would describe American history as monster fucks. So we have that.
Oh, America. Oh, you keep getting better.
But at destroying lives.
Yes, you keep getting better at ruining the planet.
See, our flag would have the first part in bold on top. We keep getting better. And then a little asterisk at the bottom at destroying lives.
Tax license rate not available in your state. And then just all the legalese. Folks, if you are listening to this, you can go to the Fountain app, which is a podcast app, and you can support this show with Bitcoin. You can give it some Satoshis, throw some sats at the show. And it's a great way to support what we're doing. Also, there's patreon.com/government secrets, where we have over 60 bonus segments. We'll be going live immediately following this broadcast. And as soon as you sign up for Government Secrets Patreon, you get access to all of the bonus content. You can buy merchandise. It's the only place you can get merchandise. And big news, Lee Camp.
Oh, yes. Oh, we're announcing the show. Let's do it.
Live show in Los Angeles, July 11th, Government Secrets Live. It is only our second ever live podcast in the United States. We've done more on foreign soil than we have in this country.
That's true. We were so censored we had to perform in other lands. Yeah, this will be our second in the Americas.
Yes. And we were censored from certain countries in Europe when we were trying to do that tour 2 years ago.
But we had two separate venues cancel on us in Berlin because they said, we support Ukraine.
Yeah. Or Russia or whatever they said is.
No, they support Ukraine.
Yeah.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Not we. I was quoting them. They said, we can't have you perform here because we support Ukraine, blah, blah, blah.
Yes. Which made total sense. And we finally found a place in formerly East Berlin to do a show. And so, yes, July.
And that's why we're in East LA.
That's
we're in the formerly communist area of LA.
Yes, formerly the People's Republic of Santa Monica.
Yeah.
So July 11th, it's a Thursday night. It's at the Crow Comedy Club. It's at 8:00. And the Crow is an awesome club. It's an independently owned club by this Nicole Blaine, she's a comic, and her husband own it. So they're really cool. I've done other shows there with like Ron Placone. They have free parking there, and it is at the Bergamot Station Expo line stop. So you can take the train in from the city if you don't want to deal with LA traffic.
For those of you in cities other than LA, free parking is like a reason people will come to events. They
Yes.
actually don't care whether an event is happening. They'll just come for the free parking.
This, like, anything to free parking or avoid traffic. Those are the things you have to really set your watch by in Los Angeles. So
Yeah.
it's an 8:00 show. It's a really cool venue. We'll be doing Government Secrets live, or Lee and I will each do some stand-up sets and then do the podcast. So you'll get a whole evening of entertainment.
I plan on doing some brand spanking new stand-up that may or may not be good.
I'm going to do mime and interpretive dance. Is what I'm going to do.
Interpretive mime.
Interpretive mime dance. It's going to be great. So July 11th in Los Angeles. It is our only show maybe that we're doing this year.
Ever again.
Yes.
Ever again.
Who knows if we will be incarcerated after this. But go to grahamelwood.com, or Lee, where can you get it?
For the tickets?
Yes.
Oh, I was just relying on you.
All right, folks, just go to grahamelwood.com.
I haven't put it up yet. I mean, I'll be putting it up, but
yes, go to grahamelwood.com for tickets. I have also put it on my Twitter page.
I assume the Crow probably has tickets, right?
Yes, if you go to the Crow, it's on their website if you're familiar with that venue. If not, just go to grahamelwood.com. And
not the movie. Don't buy tickets to go see the Crow, but
don't do that. Yeah. Nobody wants to see Bruce Lee's son get killed.
No, they don't.
So also early bird tickets. So we're doing discounted tickets until May 31st. So you only have 2 weeks to get the discounted tickets. So act quickly. It is a really cool, intimate club. So get your tickets now.
And we'll be promoting this more so that people in other countries can be bored. We'll be doing that more on other broadcasts.
Yes. So those of you who got to see us in Europe, just sit tight.
We did put out the audio as a special content of the last show. So maybe we'll do that again.
Yeah, there'll be no video, but we eventually released the audio from the European show. So you'll get the audio of the LA show. And we're going to maybe have some interesting merch there. We're working on what we could have merch wise. I'm working on it. I don't want to announce it yet, but we're working on it.
We're not actually going to have it there, but we will instruct people there how they can order shirts from Instacart and have them delivered to the show. So if anybody wants to get a shirt from Target, they can just have it delivered during the show.
Yeah, that's good. That sounds like a sound business plan. It's right up our alley.
All right, man. I have some solid, I'm calling it secret history of Israel, but it's basically just the history of how Israel created that the U.S. and Israel do not want people to remember.
All right. Yeah. Trump likes dog milk. Thank you so much for supporting our show, Kev75.
That was totally worth $2.
That was. All right, Lee, let's do segment number 1. The truth about the history of Israel from Lee Camp.
And if you don't like mine, so hang in there. We're going to get into U.S. illegal arms deals coming up as well. So
yes. I have a very specific one, but it was too long to put in the title. So I texted Lee. I said, "This is my segment, U.S. illegal arms deals," and he goes, "Is this going to be a 24-hour,
24-part, 17-hour extravaganza?" Yeah. It's like U.S. illegal arms deals sounds like a series of books.
Oh, this could be our next 100 episodes. Is this?
Okay, so for those of you new to the show, we've done this many times where we specifically say we're quoting from Wikipedia. And the reason we use Wikipedia sometimes is not because we think Wikipedia is great, but because it shows that this is even the liberals of the world, because Wikipedia is the liberal worldview, really. It's the neoliberal U.S. empire worldview. Even the liberals of the world have admitted everything I'm about to tell you.
Which we always have to bring this up because it's like, we just found this on Wikipedia. So why are not, does the news outlets not have the internet and access to Wikipedia?
Right. So obviously right now during Israel's special genocide operation, a lot of people are learning about the history of Israel, about what it is, about it being an apartheid state, about the fact that people in Gaza were in an open air prison even before October 7th, yada, yada, yada. And I am one of these, one of the millions of anti-Zionist Jews around the world. And I wanted to bring some of the history of what went on to create the state of Israel. So basically the state of Israel was created, I'm not going to get into every detail because we'd be here for hours, but it was the UN partition plan for Palestine. Before Israel existed or was created, the whole area was called Palestine. That's not debatable. It just was called Palestine or Palestina. And
to verify this, there's an interview with Golda Meir, the former prime minister of Israel, saying, yes, this was called Palestine. Like the former prime minister of Israel saying this area was called Palestine before we came in.
She says her passport said Palestine before Israel. Yeah. So the UN partition plan, ratified by the UN, it recommended a partition of mandatory Palestine. That's what it was called for the years before 1947. Not because it was mandatory the way you and I use it casually, but because it was created by a mandate. Nowadays, I think there should be a mandatory Palestine because there needs to be. But anyway, and I'm not going to get into the details of prior to this, but right before 1947, the years before, basically since World War II, World War I, Britain had been the colonial power that owned, quote unquote, Palestine. So it started with colonialism even pre-Israel. Britain claimed they owned Palestine. On November 1947, the UN General Assembly adopted the plan, which was called Resolution 181. The resolution recommended the creation of an independent Arab and an independent Jewish state that would be linked economically and have a special international regime for Jerusalem so they could share Jerusalem. The Arab state was to have, and this is some of the stuff that I find mind-blowing, that just like shows you how ridiculous the creation of Israel was to begin with. The Arab state was to have a territory of 11,000 square kilometers, or 42% of the region. The Jewish state was to have a territory of 14,000 square kilometers, or 56% of the region. So the Jews in that area were given, by the creation of Israel, 56% of the territory in what was Palestine. Now, would you like to know the amount of the territory they had before this UN vote? They had roughly 6% of the territory. Let's see. I'm looking for the map so I can bring it up here and show it to everybody. So this is both the blue and the green on this map were the parts of what became Israel that Jews owned prior to the creation of Israel. So a tiny little fraction. We're talking 6% of the region. And this is even including all of the land that they'd been buying up, that Jews in the region had been buying up in order to try and create Israel. So that a lot of that happened in the years just before, 1947. So this is even more than before that. Anyway, 6%. And then I want to show, hold on a second. I want to show the map of obviously what they ultimately got in the partition deal. The blue is what the Jewish state became, or that was ratified by the UN. So they own 6% of the land and they're given 56%, which of course means that you then have hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of Palestinians or Arabs on land that is suddenly now a Jewish state. And this is why you end up with the Nakba, which I already did a segment on what exactly the Nakba was in 1947, 1948, which is when Israelis of the newly created state kicked all of these Palestinians out of their Jewish state, or most of them, or murdered them. And, we went into all those details, all the horrific details in the last segment. But imagine, it's kind of similar to white people showing up in the what started to be called the United States and telling all the indigenous, well, this is our land.
Yeah.
We discovered it. Really just unbelievable the amount that is just kind of handed over in this vote. And I'm going to get to the details of the vote in a minute. Part 1 of the plan stipulated that the mandate would be terminated as soon as possible, and the United Kingdom would withdraw no later than 1948. So the UK would leave. The new states, and it was initially supposed to be 2 states, but giving tons more land to the Jewish people in the area. The new states would come into existence 2 months after the withdrawal, but no later than October 1948. The plan's detractors considered the proposed plan to be pro-Zionist, with 56% of the land allocated to the Jewish population. The plan was celebrated by most Jews in Palestine and reluctantly accepted by the Jewish Agency for Palestine amid misgivings. Zionist leaders, in particular David Ben-Gurion, viewed the acceptance of the plan as a tactical step and a stepping stone to a future territorial expansion over all of Palestine. So Zionists pushed very hard for this partition deal, even though they knew their ongoing plan was to then steal the remainder of the land.
Yeah, that's been their plan from the jump.
Yeah. So they accepted this deal because they figured it would allow them to set up a Jewish state that could then steal the rest of the land. The Arab Higher Committee, the Arab League, and the other Arab leaders and governments rejected it as an addition to the Arabs forming a 2/3 majority. They owned a majority of the lands. So Arabs were overwhelmingly the majority of the people, the population, and the landowners. And yet then 56% of the land's given to Jews in the area. They also indicated an unwillingness to accept any form of territorial division, arguing that it violated the principles of national self-determination in the UN Charter, which granted people the right to decide their own destiny. So the Arabs in the area never agreed to this. And you might, right now, I think some people look at it and go, well, they were offered a state and they didn't take it. And it's like, if people came to where you and your people lived, like people came into your neighborhood, and it's 100 of you and your neighbors living there, and they said, we're taking half of it, and you can have the remaining half. Agree to this or you get nothing. I would imagine you'd go, no, this is our neighborhood. These are our houses. Why would you accept to just lose 56% of your land? But here's another fact about the creation of Israel that blew my mind. The number of nations that actually created this, that actually said this is how it should work, is very tiny. Because the number of nations in the UN at the time was like 50 something. I can't remember the exact number. Because most countries in the world were owned by colonial rulers, quote unquote owned. So most nations in the world were colonized in one form or another. The biggest, colonial powers were the US, the UK, France, Germany. For a long while, the UK owned like 40% of all landmass in the world, or claimed to.
Oh yeah, the sun never set on the Union Jack.
Yeah, and I thought that was just a nice way of saying they liked it sunny or something. But what it actually meant is that the sun is always shining on some piece of land that the UK owns around the world at this time.
That they did not acquire honorably.
Wait. I I thought they just went and asked nicely. No.
Yeah, they just said tea and crumpets, old chum, and then they had a nice
Yeah.
meeting and got the land.
The people gave away their country or their landmass or their islands for teas and crumpets.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So you have this tiny number of nations in the UN, 1/4 of what we have now. And then of those, only 33 vote for this partition plan, for this resolution that created Israel. 33 countries. And on top of that, many of them were pressured, which I'm about to get into in a moment.
No, that's not how those votes work. It's always everybody gets to say whatever they want to say, right?
Yeah, I always thought that, like, Guam could just do whatever they felt like. And, Haiti has always been able to really live their own lives and
Yes.
make their own choices.
We've talked about this in the past. The African countries have always been able to just determine their own course of action without any European interference at all.
Yeah. Even today, where was Niger the country that like 2 weeks ago told the U.S. to leave and kicked out France? And I mean, they kicked out France several months ago, but they told the U.S. to get the hell out just a few weeks ago or something. But so 33 countries out of what we have now, 190 whatever, 33 countries voted that Palestine should be divvied up and just given to immigrants almost exclusively. I mean, yes, there were some Jews living there, but a tiny number, almost exclusively immigrants that had come flooding in the past, 10 to 20 years. And so 33 countries voted for it. 13 voted against it, and 10 abstained. And that was the creation of Israel. And then I also wanted to read the details about some of the pressuring. And again, this is the pressuring you learn about if you read Wikipedia. Imagine what the reality is.
With the real pressure. Yeah, exactly.
Imagine, Wikipedia is not like, so they then rammed him in the ass, the ambassador in the ass with a flagpole of theirs for 2 hours until he finally said he'd vote for the partition plan.
I doubt Wikipedia has an entry of like, they hung this guy from the roof of a building and said, you're voting how?
Yeah. I imagine it was a lot of Suge Knighting these people.
There was a lot of Suge Knighting.
Proponents of the plan reportedly put pressure on nations to vote yes for the partition plan. A telegram signed by 26 U.S. senators with influence on foreign aid bills was sent to wavering countries. So they're threatening their aid, meaning their money, seeking their support for the partition plan. The U.S. Senate was considering a large aid package at the time, including $60 million to China, which is worth roughly $200 trillion today. Many nations reported pressure directed specifically at them. And here are some of the examples. President Truman said, quote, the facts were that not only were there pressure movements around the United Nations, unlike anything that had been seen before, but that the White House, too, was subjected to a constant barrage. I do not think I ever had as much pressure and propaganda aimed at the White House as I had in this instance. The persistence of a few of the extreme Zionist leaders, actuated by political motives and engaging in political threats, disturbed and annoyed me, unquote. That's from Truman, the guy who dropped the atom bombs. This disturbed him.
He felt pressured.
He killed hundreds of thousands of innocent people. This disturbed him.
Yeah, this was out of line.
India, which ultimately did vote against, but they talked about the pressure to vote for. The Indian Prime Minister Nehru spoke with anger and contempt for the way the UN vote had been lined up. He said the Zionists had tried to bribe India with millions, and at the same time, his sister, last name Pandit, the Indian ambassador to the UN, had received daily warnings that her life was in danger unless she voted correctly. They still ended up voting against it, but that's just showing some of the pressure. Liberia, which was one of the 33 that voted for it, Liberia's ambassador to the U.S. complained that the U.S. delegation threatened aid cuts to several countries. Harvey Firestone Jr., president of Firestone Natural Rubber Company, which I can't remember if we maybe did a whole segment on that, but they completely like owned Liberia and like a banana republic and had their military just gun down workers when they'd go on strike and stuff like that. But they used their major holdings in Liberia to pressure the Liberian government. So Liberia voted for it. Philippines, in the days before the vote, the Philippines representative stated, quote, "We hold that the issue is primarily moral. The issue is whether the United Nations should accept responsibility for the enforcement of a policy which is clearly repugnant to the valid nationalist aspirations of the people of Palestine. The Philippines government holds the UN ought not to accept such responsibility," unquote. However, so it sounds like he's saying it's a moral issue, we're voting against it. However, after a phone call from Washington, the representative was recalled and the Philippines vote was changed. Wonder what was said on that phone call, you think?
It'd be a real shame if a couple of your ambassadors fell down a flight of stairs. You know what I mean? It'd be just mob style.
Listen, we gave you those tea and crumpets. We can take them back, all right?
Yeah, I'd really hate to see a guy, suddenly get some busted kneecaps because he wouldn't sign a bill. Knees go bad when bills don't get signed.
People who vote no on this, they have exploding kneecap syndrome. It's really terrible. I don't know what the coincidence is, but be a real overlap in the Venn diagram there.
There's like a scene from The Sopranos where he goes to muscle a guy at a bar who's like a union vote, and it's Steve Sharippa, who's used to book the Vegas Improv, and he sits down next to the guy, goes, "Hey, how you voting in that vote?" And the guy goes, "Yeah, I know what you're trying to do." And he's like, "Boy, if whatever the guy's name, he's like, if I were to vote for Tony Johnson, I couldn't live with myself. I'd have to put a bullet in my head here, here, and here." Then he just pays for his drink, quietly walks out.
Man, if I voted for him, I would find lots of bullets in my head, and I just don't want to do that,
Oh, if I voted for that guy, I don't know. I'd probably throw myself off a building, a really tall one.
Then Haiti voted for it. Haiti's always been free and allowed to do what they want.
Yeah. Yep. Yes.
As we're on the cusp of another U.S. NATO invasion of Haiti. The promise of a $5 million loan may or may not have secured Haiti's vote for partition. Now, there's an example where when Wikipedia says may or may not, they mean it did. Because that's Wikipedia.
Yeah. May or may not. Yeah. That's the Wikipedia neoliberal whitewashing.
Yeah. And then France, which voted for it, France had not publicly supported the resolution. After considering the danger of American aid being withheld, France finally voted in favor of it. So too did France's neighbors, Belgium, Luxembourg, and the Netherlands. So basically, aid was being threatened on just about every country.
You get like American aid it's honestly the worst thing. Again, it's like the mob loaning you money and they're like, "Hey, we'll help you out." And then it's like that scene in Goodfellas. Then it's like, "Can't pay your mortgage? Fuck you, pay me." And then they just fuck you, pay me. And then they just set the place on fire. That, like any other countries out there listening right now, don't take American aid. It's the worst thing you can do.
Yeah, it is like the mafia because, the guy might not have been able to build his store without the mafia loan, but then he can't make any money because he's paying the mafia all day.
Yeah. America's just going to come in and go, "Yeah, we need you to do this or that.
We're going to need you to nationalize your oil fields." Really, it's they probably sound like the boss in Office Space. Yeah, we're gonna need you to really to nationalize your oil. It's just with all this stuff going on. Yeah,
the head office is really gonna want to start a coup if you don't. So
and it's my hands are tied on this thing. I hear your side of it, but my hands are tied. Cuba voted against it. The Cuban delegation stated they would vote, and this is before their revolution, but stated they would vote against the partition in spite of pressure being brought to bear against us because they could not be party to coercing the majority in Palestine. So even the somewhat puppet government in Cuba voted against it, despite the pressure. And then Siam, which ultimately is absent from the vote. Do you want to hear why they were absent? The credentials of the Siamese delegations were canceled after is it Siam or Siam? Voted after Siam voted against the partition in a committee on November 25th. So basically, they voted against it before it received its full vote, and then their credentials were
oh, weird. That's weird. You guys voted against it, and then you know what? We forgot to file the paperwork.
He just clips the credentials off their neck, and he's like, "What? You don't have any credentials? I can't let you in here without credentials."
It just goes, "Oh, sorry, you guys have no credentials."
There's a plague of scissors flying around here.
Why'd you cut the credentials off my neck? I don't know. Why do you have a ribbon around your neck with nothing on it? That's the question we really need to ask.
All right. So I'll pretty much wrap it up there, but I want to just show again. This is the amount of land. Oh, let's see. I can zoom in some more. This is the amount of land that Jews owned of the entire area before the UN plan that gave them 56% of the region.
Wow.
It's just such a tiny fraction. It's like nothing. And yet they're just given 56% of the region.
Unbelievable.
And then, of course, because the Arabs don't sign off on the plan, they are never given a state, and Israel forces as many as, they murder some of them, hundreds of thousands of them, but they force as many of them as they can into certain regions. Gaza, West Bank, become the most densely packed areas. Some flee to other countries because their families murdered, their villages are burned. And then but that hasn't been enough, of course. It's that they're packed into refugee camps in West Bank and Gaza for the past, 60 years, the 70 years. The Israeli government, Israeli military then go on to bulldoze what's left and continue to steal land.
And it's like, when the analogy is made, wow, what, he's just supposed to give all the land? I mean, is that what we're going to do to the Native Americans? It was several hundred years ago. This just recently happened. So I think
several hundred years ago,
you know, this just recently happened. And I've saw a good point too. It's like all of these Israelis that are claiming this is their land, they're all from somewhere else. They all have passports from somewhere else. Like Palestinians have nowhere else to go. And somebody put this map up. They said, here's a two-state solution. They cut Germany in half and gave half of it, made it to Israel.
There you go. Well, yeah, people have said that. They're like, if a state of Israel had to be created, which I hate the argument. Biden said this multiple times, including recently. The argument that if there was no Israel, no Jew in the world would be safe, which sounds to me like a threat from Biden that he's going to come after me. But it's like, what do you mean we're not safe? But
you're less safe with Israel doing what it's doing.
Yeah. No, we're absolutely, Jews around the world are less safe because of Israel and what they're doing and the genocide they're committing. But even if that were true, that a Israeli state had to be committed, like you said, some people have said it was right after World War II, give them half of Germany. Other people have said, there's other places that Jews can go. It doesn't need to be, it doesn't need to steal Palestinian land and genocide people.
Yep. So thanks, Wikipedia.
Yeah, I know. It really is amazing when even the liberal worldview, even uh the US imperial view of the world from Wikipedia, even they admit all of these facts.
Dude, we have done countless segments with using Wikipedia just to show you, like, I think almost every single one of those CIA operations that I did, I read it off of Wikipedia to just go, this is what they're saying on Wikipedia is saying this is what the CIA did. Like,
And basically it's because most of it's because Wikipedia will tell the truth if it's like 30 years ago or more.
yeah, yes, yes.
Or most of the truth, because that is not that useful in propaganda. I mean, it is right now with the case of Israel, it is somewhat useful, but in general, the US is fighting a propaganda war about like Venezuela today, Iran today, like so the Ukraine war today. So most of the propaganda fight is over the past 5 or 10 years. And once you're past that, it's like even our mainstream media can admit they were wrong about WMD for years and yet not change anything, not do anything, not apologize, not retract because they didn't admit it till 10 years later. Like,
Yeah. And then, as we've talked about before, especially in terms of like CIA coups or stuff the US did, it's always kind of under this veil of, but that was way back. We do things differently now. We don't do those awful things anymore. Like MK Ultra, they shut that program down. So there's no way would the CIA keep doing that. No way. There's no way they would do that. All right, let's get into some more fun stuff that the United States has done. So this is Segment number 2, U.S. illegal arms sales. I want to focus on a specific guy who initially he sold pigs in Fresno, California. The illegal arms, that's funny. U.S. illegal arms deal would be Jerry Lewis telethon of government secrets.
it never ends. 3 days long.
It would literally be, it could, 3 days, I think is
selling it short.
A little selling it short. I think it'd be a week, 2 weeks long, just 24/7 nonstop illegal arms deals. First of all, I want to get into there's a legal thing that happened. There's an article in BuzzFeed that came out in 2014 that said how a one-time pig peddler helped the U.S. flood war zones with guns. And then this guy later, the U.S. government is one of the largest buyers of AK-47s. This is something I did not know. This is the true government secret. So not only is it a huge part of America's revenue and defense industry revenue to sell weapons all over the world, we've been buying AK-47s and then we distribute them. That's what this article is going to go into.
Why can't we make our own?
Yeah, that should be the argument. We should be giving more Americans jobs, making AK-47s and selling them around the world. So, there's a lot to unpack here. We're the largest buyer. So when the Soviet Union collapsed, there was this plethora of AK-47s all over the place, and America started buying a lot of them up. And we continue to this day. And I think they're still manufactured, which is, and then we poured them into Afghanistan, Iraq, and other hotspots. And this goes about this guy. He's an American from Fresno, California. His name is Ara Delorean. And he was there. This is in 2014 on behalf of the U.S.
This is not the DeLorean car guy, I hope.
No. It'd be great if it was, though.
I mean, he was loony and he did make things.
I'm a little shocked the DeLorean guy didn't also make arms deals. Like, it seems like that would have been part of his thing.
I'm trying to remember the name of the DeLorean guy. What was it? I feel like it started with a D. Can't remember. DeLuca? Was it DeLuca?
And the DeLorean car was named after the guy that came up with it. God, I can't.
Oh, Delaney? De
Ooh.
lackluster?
Dolce Gabbana?
Dolce
No.
Gabbana. That's it. You got it.
They made
Thank you, man.
handbags that shot guns.
Thank you.
So this BuzzFeed article is about a specific event in Bulgaria in 2014 where this DeLorean guy shows up. But the point is, he shows up there on behalf of the U.S. government or its allies, shopping for weapons destined for America's most difficult and dangerous foreign policy tangles, such as Iraq and Afghanistan. From 2006 until 2014, DeLorean managed to get contracts affiliated with the United States government that ranged from less than $20,000 to $14 million. One of his $588,000 deals from 2013 was for an operation still shrouded in secrecy. American commandos wanted dozens of Kalashnikov rifles and a handful of the massive Soviet bloc machine guns nicknamed Dushkas to mount on trucks, some rocket-propelled grenade launchers, and hundreds of thousands of rounds of ammunition.
That's where we get the expression, you're being a real dushka.
Yeah, dude, don't be a dushka.
Don't be a dushka.
Oh, this guy's such a douchka. Oh my God. Never ends with this douchka.
I always love the etymology. Learning about the history of these words.
So they'd put these dushkas and hundreds of thousands of rounds of ammunition. This is a standard package for a foreign quick reaction force that the U.S. could train and deploy, according to Special Forces veterans who pursued the shopping list for BuzzFeed. It wasn't clear what group the U.S. intended to arm with this contract, parts of which are apparently classified, though the timing fit with secret U.S. training programs for Syrian rebel forces, intelligence agencies, and military declined to comment. Well, that's weird. They also declined to comment whether they knew certain pertinent facts about DeLorean. When his company landed the subcontract to buy their weapons, he was the subject of a federal criminal grand jury investigation for probably violating U.S. arms dealing laws and had been found by a civil court in California to have defrauded investors. Again, now this article is 2014. I want you to keep that in mind. DeLorean's tale highlights how the U.S. relies on small but important defense contracting bottom fish to arm some of the world's most violent and unstable military forces. So, just so for everybody following at home, America buys AK-47s, and they do this through these shady DeLorean guys, who I'm going to get into in a second, who then sells them to U.S. mercenaries. Basically, we're just arming whatever nutbag rebel group we can, ISIS, and lets them create all this mayhem around the world. Okay, so that's just the basic kind of
mayhem around the world is the aim.
Mayhem around the world. So one of the reasons, this is my guess, why we buy AK-47s and arm these people is it would look weird if they had, American-made weapons. So we're arming these rebel groups to do whatever crazy State Department tangled up, get this guy to attack this, it's all just this insane, it's not a chess match. It's just constant arming of rebels to just keep, some of it is just to keep regions unstable. We need to keep the Middle East unstable so we can get oil.
The U.S. has long operated under just instability in places that could end up going against us as good. Now, instability sounds like a light term, but it often means the murderous, horrific lives for millions in the area. But that's fine for the U.S.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically, like you said, you make a great point of America's foreign policy is we would take an unstable government over one that's against us.
Yeah.
Because an unstable government, we can actually manipulate. We can find whichever rebel leader is greedy enough to take our money. And as we've shown numerous times on this show, this guy can commit whatever atrocities he wants to commit as long as he's pro-America.
And to become powerful enough as a competitor to the U.S., it is going to take a long time. And so examples are China, Russia, Iran to some extent, but it takes a long time. So if you have instability and power is jumping between different people and various gangs have power and warlords, and then even if some of these warlords or some of these gangs are against the US, they never have enough time or resources to build up something that is a true competitor to the US, a global hegemony.
Yeah, and then we can just fund the rival gang to fight them to take up whatever little power they do have. We'll just fund the rival gang and use guys like this DeLorean dude to give them AK-47s. I mean, it's unbelievable. And so the United States is the largest arms exporter, but it purchases massive amount of foreign weapons. That I really did not know. Most of them are manufactured in the former Soviet bloc.
Do you think they whittle all the serial numbers off by hand, the U.S. government, or do you think it's a machine for that?
Knowing the United States government, they would use some type of migrant slave labor to do that, to whittle off the numbers, or children or something,
Migrant children. Yeah.
Good point. Migrant children can handle that kind of work.
Whittle 900 serial numbers off and you get an hour out of your cage.
Yes. And we'll change, we'll let you have water. So in an effort to build up and train friendly security services, the U.S. saturates some of the most violent regions of the world with these arms, but has little control over who ultimately gets them. So that's part of the destabilization. We just flood it with arms. You guys kill each other, and then we'll, come in and get whatever we need.
So you might have already said this. These arms come into the U.S. or are they just bought? Like, are they bought by U.S. entities or they're bought by secondary entities secretly on behalf of the U.S.?
That's what it is. It's this guy. It's these guys like DeLorean are purchasing these. And that's why this story takes place in Bulgaria. So he goes to these countries and buys them on behalf of the U.S., but he's down the line. So it's what the
plausible deniability.
Yes, it's what the mafia does. The mob boss never orders the killing. He has a mid-level guy do it, so he can say, this guy went nuts.
Right. And you always talk about it in the back of a laundromat, so you can say, "What? It's a laundromat."
Yeah. Don't talk about it over the phone. Use code word, whatever. And the Pentagon and U.S. intelligence agencies often issue contracts themselves for these weapons, but other times American tax dollars go through a proxy, such as the Afghan government agency, which issues the contract, but which is heavily funded and guided by the U.S. DeLorean was involved in both types of contracts. So that's, to your point too. No, we're not buying them and shipping them here. So we'll give the Afghan government or one of these governments funds for aid to help the kids or the blah, blah, blah. And then that aid money is used to purchase these weapons to help fund whatever thing. Right. The thing that people need to understand. So the media focuses a lot of the weapons trade, tracks the multi-billion-dollar deals and fighter jets and missiles and radar systems. But to be clear, most of the killing in modern wars is done with cheap rifles, machine guns, mortars, and other small arms. Over the last decade, and again, this is an article from 2014, from 2004 to 2014, the U.S. has sent more than 700,000 weapons, the vast majority foreign-made small arms, to Afghanistan, where President Obama has staked his strategy on training and arming the army and police, which, again, this is 2014. So that worked out. We know that plan completely worked.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Afghanistan's doing great.
It is. No, it is doing great. I mean, so it worked. I mean, this plan from 2014 has played out great. Afghanistan
played out perfectly. Yeah.
Afghanistan's doing great. It really worked.
No, but it, to reverse the sarcasm back to the truth, it did work out great in the sense that the U.S. wanted instability in Afghanistan, and they got it for years and years, and really now as well. They may not have wanted the Taliban in control, but they wanted instability. They wanted people killing each other. They wanted a country that was incapable of really becoming some kind of real competitor, the United States, to the military machine. And the U.S. has gotten all that.
And I guarantee you there's people in the Pentagon and defense contractors who are like, this Taliban instability is pretty good. We could probably wait a couple of years. We might have to go back and give them freedom again and spend more money.
We might have to bomb that freedom back into them.
Yeah. Send more troops on the ground, just have a Taliban guy, blow himself up at a mall in America, and everyone will get back to get the recruiting numbers back up.
That's true.
So of those 700,000 weapons that I talked about that Obama sent to Afghanistan and Iraq, the U.S. disbanded the security forces only to rebuild and return new ones for 8 years, sending over 1 million weapons by some estimates. That's to Iraq. The majority of these were Russian-designed small arms. So
that's another reason they send the Russian arms. So if someone's caught with all these arms on them, the U.S. can say, "Wasn't us."
Yes, exactly. And then the average, American service member who is signing up to serve their country, they go over there and they're fighting the Taliban or insurgents or whatever, and they've got AK-47s. Then they can go, see, Russia's fueling them. That even fuels Russia's involvement, and they're not. We're So literally, American service members have been killed by AK-47s that were paid for with American dollars.
Well, I take issue with the term service members. I prefer paid killers, but I do. I'm a little more extreme than you.
Sure.
No, but at least, American military is getting murdered by the weapons we send over there. And, these type of killings, I often bring up the number that very few bring up, but the Brown University cost of war talks about 4.5 million to 6 million, 4.5 being the lower estimate, have been killed by our global war on terror. That's not counting those killed by these guns.
No, not at all. No, I mean, we should total up how many American military members in Iraq and Afghanistan were killed by weapons that America funded. We should get that number. I mean, that would make Americans. I think that statistic is the one that if we could put that out there on a mass scale, which I find hard to do with
they would never. The only people that could do that type of calculation would be the U.S. Pentagon, because they'd know how many of their arms have been shipped out, who got shot by what, but they would never release that.
And imagine if that info somehow were to get out on a mass scale, Americans would go, "What? Can you imagine that? You thought you were fighting the bad guys, and no, the bad guys were armed by us." So these types of arms that DeLorean, the state of California has banned from selling certain financial securities, was given U.S. tax dollars purchase. So this guy who's already been corrupt, he's corrupt. They're going to let him do it.
If you use a DeLorean gun, do you go back to the future? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, it's the time traveler's wife of weapons.
It's a time traveler gun.
It is. You shoot someone and then you go back in time. That's great.
It is tough, though, to pick who you're going to kill so you can go back in time. So,
I know.
I want to see my dad as a kid. I'll just murder this mailman.
I'll murder this mailman. And then, but you also got to plan where you're going to go back. So which Super Bowls you can bet on. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So you murder a quarterback today, and then you go back to Super Bowl I. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's correct. That's your math is impeccable, Lee.
I'm amazed I didn't invent this myself. considering my incredible understanding of the situation.
Just to kind of give you a little like show you how much of this whole line of business, how much of a scandal it is. In 2007, the Pentagon awarded a $300 million contract for Warsaw-packed ammunition to a company run by a 21-year-old Miami man, Ephraim DiVeroli, who had limited
Good for him
experience.
getting started young.
That's a young entrepreneur, Lee. That's a
Yeah.
kid who's a go-getter.
Go getter is right.
No, he's not sitting around asking for a hand. He's not one of these avocado toast millennials just waiting for a participation medal trophy.
He actually invented an avocado toast gun that chops people's heads off with avocado toast.
It's just an avocado toast automatic weapon that can murder people with an avocado toast. It's amazing weaponry. That story of DiVeroli was convicted of fraud after his company sent decades-old flawed ammunition to Afghanistan. And actually, they made that into a movie.
Flawed ammunition to Afghanistan.
Or Avocado Toast, the musical. I forget what it's called. The details about DeLorean's career as an arms dealer were culled from the court records, interviews, and documents. In response to a detailed letter laying out the contents of this article, DeLorean's lawyer, Myron Smith, wrote, "I do not intend to provide a point-by-point response. Needless to say, I believe some of this information is inaccurate and some is false." Okay.
Some is inaccurate, some is false.
Let's fast forward now, Lee. This is an article in the Fresno Bee, May 21st, 2019. Fresno man's career as international arms dealer may be over. He's arrested by the Freds.
By the Freds?
By the Freds. The Ara DeLorean was arrested Wednesday at his mother's home in Fresno by agents with Homeland Security Investigations. DeLorean, who federal officials say lives in Sofia, Bulgaria, was visiting when federal authorities found him. He remains in custody. For years, DeLorean quietly operated his Fresno-based DeLorean Capital, Inc., out of a West Shaw Avenue office. His business neighbors thought for a while that he was importing and exporting tea.
Tea and crumpets.
Yeah, it's like AK-47 tea. It's a really strong tea. And this article in the Fresno Bee references the BuzzFeed article from 2014 that I was just reading, where they say they shined a spotlight on DeLorean's lucrative international arms dealing, selling everything from Soviet T-72 tanks to rocket launchers.
There you go, T.
See?
72 tanks.
See? He is accused of trying to broker an illegal arms deal in 2013 and 2014 with the Nigerian government. Court documents showed DeLorean, through his company DeLorean Capital Inc., was trying to sell high explosive bombs, rockets, military-grade firearms, and aircraft-mounted cannons from Eastern Europe to South Africa to Nigerian officials. The problem with the $8.4 million deal, prosecutors allege, is that DeLorean's company did not have permission from the State Department to do so. Well, okay. This is where I think they needed a scapegoat for something, and they went, let's hang this guy out to dry.
Yeah. Plausible deniability. What's he doing? I can't believe that. Meanwhile, Shredder in the background.
Yeah. Somebody came up with some information and they went, hey, it looks like this guy has links to the State Department. No, he doesn't. He acted alone. Arrest him. Goodbye. Thank you. Thank you so much. Have a good night. Thank you. So he's arrested. He's facing, I don't know, he's in prison for 25 years or something like that. Despite a lack of authorization, DeLorean is accused of pursuing the transaction, working with this company, SEI, a French arms brokering company, on behalf of Nigeria for the purchase of weapons and explosives. DeLorean's attorney, George Newhouse, so he's got a different attorney now in 2019, has denied his client is a licensed arm dealer and has done nothing wrong. So this is the U.S. Attorney's Office said the news release that the money paid to DeLorean was funneled through Nigeria through a purported furniture company in Hong Kong. The money was then routed through numerous shell accounts held by DeLorean and others. Gee, I wonder if the others are the U.S. State Department.
I know. See, your average arms dealer would go through like one shell company. I feel like if you go through 7, you're probably working with the U.S. government.
Exactly. Well, listen to this quote from the special investigator, the special agent in charge for Homeland Security. Quote, illegal arms brokering represents a threat not only to U.S. national security, but to the security of the international community, end quote.
Exactly. Only we get to sell bombs and weapons to the entire world. This guy was doing it on the rogue.
It's probably that. Like, hey, this guy's selling. He probably did maybe just go, I'm going to make my own deal to Nigeria. And they went, whoa, 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 whoa.
Yeah, I mean, either way, if he was working with the U.S. government or he was, I mean, it's a bigger story if he was, but the U.S. doesn't like people selling arms because we get to sell all the arms to all the people.
Yeah. And the U.S. had no problem with this guy selling illegal arms in the Middle East. You know, they had no problem with that. But then when he goes to Nigeria, there's probably some other thing that I can't quite see through all of this, that like they went, ooh, or he stepped on somebody's toes.
Yeah, sometimes it can be the guy that they want to disavow got caught up in something where he's another country catches him, or he's or some, you know, it's not like the U.S. government knows what every prosecutor, even what every FBI agent is doing. So he could have gotten caught up by someone, and then they're like, we don't know him. Yeah, arrest him, lock him up.
Yeah, he's a threat to national security. I mean,
but I will say those are the type of guys, when they have knowledge about the U.S. government or something, they're the type of guys that find the old paper pajama suit around the neck in the jail cell.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are guys that just, again, just like the mafia, if a mid-level guy gets busted and they're worried he's going to flip, that guy slips on a bar of soap and lands on a really sharp toothbrush
32 times.
Yeah, 32 times in the showers. Like that's what happens. So
the key is, if you slip on the soap and you impale yourself on your pointy toothbrush, don't keep standing up and keep slipping 30 times.
That's the key. Don't keep falling and then keep falling down on it. That's
a terrible idea. What? No. Oh God. Like, you really stay down. Stay down.
It's just like a Benny Hill skit, only he's getting shanked in the shower.
A bloody Benny Hill skit.
Yeah. So that is that's our show.
All right, but we do have a bonus segment, patreon.com/government secrets. Also, we want to tell you about our live show, which we told you about at the beginning. Live show in Los Angeles coming up in July. Hope you'll grab your tickets. Right now, GrahamElwood.com. I'll be posting it soon. And I also, in 10 days or less, am doing a live Zoom comedy event. You can learn more about that at leecamp.simpletix.com. If you want some blood-sucking parasites, I also have leecamp.simpletix.com. Different thing, though. Different.
Cool. Hey, thanks, Nadia.
Thanks, Nadia. And just real quick, the tickets are $5, and you can learn more about that event at that website, leecamp.simpletix.com. You'll get all the details, like what's it going to be like? Where do I go? How do I do it? All those things.
Yes. So our show, Government Secrets, live in Los Angeles, Thursday, July 11th. The show's at 8:00. It's in Santa Monica. Free parking. The tickets are at GrahamElwood.com. And go to GrahamElwood.com, sign up for my newsletter and everything else, and follow me on all my social media at Graham Elwood. And then we will be jumping over to patreon.com/government secrets. Right now, we'll be over there in about 2 minutes to do a free bonus not free, but a bonus segment that
free for members.
And then you can get Government Secrets merch at patreon.com as well.
The thong is a big hit.
The Government Secrets thong, the pew pew, #pew pew thong is a real big seller.
The pew pew pubes is a big Big seller.
All right. This has been Government Secrets, episode 158. The truth on the history of Israel and America loves illegal arms sales unless a guy gets caught.
See you over there.
Thanks, everybody.